symbol in it.
Oh, there's Dave. Okay, let's begin. Unfortunately, Mary Ann can't be with us this evening, so I'm going to certainly do my best to fill those beautiful shoes of hers. And so bear with me, and definitely if I am not proceeding in the right manner, please raise your hand and let me know, okay? So let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, Roberts is here.
Johnson here.
Adams here.
Alessandra here.
Okay, thank you very much. And one other item before we actually get into today's agenda, I do have a special announcement, and it is with regards to the 2021 CSD election. And so if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to read from this because there's some very specific information I need to share with everybody. And so as a number of you are already familiar, every 2 years, the Riverside County Registrar of Voters conducts a public election for directors of the Duluth Community Services District. This year, there were 3 director seats up for election. Let's see, the nomination process began on July the 12th and it ended on August the 11th. The results were that 3 incumbents did not file for re-election. 3 voters submitted nomination papers and were confirmed as eligible to serve as directors of the Duluth CSD. According to the California Election Code, the Riverside County Board of Supervisors will appoint the 3 confirmed nominees in lieu of an election. And I'd like to share a little information with you of those individuals. And the nominees are, and I believe 2 of them are present. Chuck is present. So the first nominee is Chuck Bowman, and he is an electrical engineer holding a BS and an MS in electrical engineering. He held executive management positions in the aerospace and telecommunication industries before retiring to beautiful Duluth to his avocado farm in 2015. Welcome, Chuck. The next nominee, Paula. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
Paula attended California State University, Fullerton. While residing in Hacienda Heights, she served as president along with other positions in the PTA. Paula also worked with Hacienda and La Puente School District. Paula and her husband, Mike, moved to Duluth in 2014, and immediately she became an active member of the community, such as with the Duluth Women's Club, and has served as a board member. The last individual is Gina Rawson. She is a longtime resident of Duluth and owns real estate brokerage service company. She is active in many community organizations, including the Duluth Women's Club. She is knowledgeable and well-known member of our community. Now, the California law establishes that the CSD board members take office at noon on Friday, December the 3rd, 2021. The new members will be sworn in effective at that time. And of course, we will miss our outgoing members, Mike Adams, Mary Ann Byers, and Ray Johnson. These individuals will continue in the office until December 3rd. As is tradition, the outgoing board will be honored at the regular meeting on Wednesday, December the 15th, 2021. And I believe I covered everything. Thank you. Okay, let's get the meeting going. Next on, let's see. We did not do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I apologize. That should be next, Teresa.
Okay. Bear with me, folks. You know I just, oh, hang on. Okay. Technical difficulty, hang on.
don't we all just read it?
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and read it for you. I practiced this 3 times and it was perfect. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, let's go ahead and proceed with item B, and that will be the sheriff's report.
Well, good evening once again. In terms of trends right now that are happening, we're getting a lot of calls for suspicious vehicles and persons, which is great. That means that we're being vigilant out there. Luckily, all the calls we had for service last period, they were all positive. They're basically people were running out of gas, they're lost for the most part, or they actually had a right to be there. So I really like it when people call in these vehicles and these people because there's more of a presence. And when they see cops responding to the area, they'll dissuade others from coming over. A topic that came up the other day, rentals. If you have a rental property, once again, I would encourage you to check on your property every few months or whatever. Typically, it's in your lease that allows you to, within 24 or 48 hours notice, you can go onto your property to check the interior. We had a property that was possibly an indoor grow, but we can't prove that. But when you have an indoor grow and your house smells like marijuana and there's moisture on the walls, most likely probably it is an indoor grow. And when that happens, it's basically your responsibility to ensure that it's safe. Indoor grows are a lot of times because of moisture in the air, it gets behind the walls, the drywall, and now it is your responsibility to make sure it's safe for your next renter. So I would encourage you, if you have rental property, to take steps to ensure that someone's actually living there and it's not an actual marijuana grow. We get a lot of calls for alarms, which is great. I mean, in terms of that, they're responding out there, the presence, but a lot of deputies are responding, including myself, and there's no gate codes. We'll contact the alarm company and we end up popping fences. So I'm getting old, alarms are old. So if at all possible, please tell your alarm company your gate code. That way we can actually get to your property. Last month we had a report of a fire out there in Duluth, but we couldn't find it. So it's one of those deals. But this morning we had a report of a fire that was off of Avenida Tierra and Calle Cresta. It was a small fire. CHP requested our presence. We showed up and the fire was put out and they'll be investigated. From my understanding, it was a small fire. But once again, we're in fire season. I know it's cloudy outside, but fires still break out. And that includes my presentation. Any questions from the board? From the public? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, moving on to item C, public comments. Teresa, do we have anybody that
Yes.
wishes?
Yes, we have 3 members. Of course, we have Carol, we have Chuck, and then I believe this might be Gina, but it's logged in as Ann Smith. So those are our 3 people that are joining us.
Okay. All righty. But otherwise, no request to speak to the board. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, Teresa. Okay, next item will be D, information only, and these items are intended for information purposes, and they include number 1, statement of investment policy, number 2, financial statements. Is there any objections, changes? No? Then we will move on to item number E, consent calendar. And that includes 1, minutes of the July 21st, 2021 regular board meeting. 2 is the general fund claims for July 2021. And 3 is purchase orders, which there are none at this particular time. Any questions, changes?
Move we
No?
accept the consent calendar.
Pardon me?
Say I move we accept the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ray Johnson. All in favor? Roberts, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Adams, aye.
Alessandri, aye.
Thank you. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, next on our agenda is item F, roadway reconstruction project, Sandia Creek via Vaquero. Mr. Hunt.
Okay, thank you. First, I'm going to start talking about the environmental. We have gotten all the different approvals except for one from the Corps of Engineers. They were supposed to submit their approval to us last week. The guy called and said he didn't quite make it. They are on training this week and they should have it first thing next week. So we'll get all our approvals done by next week, which is fits into our schedule just fine. So that is good news. So we're up and running on that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Once you have that approval, that means the project is good to go.
correct.
There's nothing else that would stop it.
No, long as we don't change the plans as submitted, which we have not.
Can you just email the board when that approval comes through?
Yes, I will.
Maybe Jessica can arrange for a big party since we've been waiting so long for this.
Yeah, this has been going on for like 2.5 years. It's been going on
Yeah,
a long
please.
time.
Please let us know when that's final. I think there are people in my homeowners association that would like to know that.
Okay,
If you can, an estimated time when construction would begin.
right. Right now, the contractor says he'll be ready roughly in the middle of September to start, just ballpark.
Great.
That's what he said a month ago. So things change with contractors. And when I get this confirmed, we will confirm that date. So speaking of the contractor, back in August, we received bids on this project from them. There was how many bidders? Right here. 1, 2, 3,
What year?
there were 6 bidders, 2019. So it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, you said last August, so it's 2 years. ago.
Yeah, August of 2019.
Yeah,
Sorry.
hard to keep track.
It is. And so his bids were really technically good for 90 days because that was the standard language in the contracts and all that. So we gave him all the modifications and changes to him for him to review. We did like an independent review of what the project should come up with. And that means we looked at his original bid, and I gave you a table here of 969,000 for the 2 projects. We subtracted the 150,000 for the credits for not doing the lining on the projects. So we took the 969 minus the 150,000, and then we looked up in the engineering news records, and it keeps track of construction cost in California on the increases throughout the years. So anytime you go, you can go get a cost index on that. And that for the 2 years was roughly 15.7%. So he's really allowed that much just based on the original bid. And then we added quantities, and we did our own independent stuff on the quantity changes. Biggest one was the concrete head wall on the upstream side, additional riprap and work that wasn't in the original bid that FEMA said, why don't you just replace everything? It'll make it easier for get approval through them. It changed our environmental, it delayed us a year, but they said, hey, they would cover it all if you did all this. And in theory, they'll cover it. So that we came up with the addition of that and came up with a new total of roughly about $1.3 million is the new price on the project. Marietta came back with their bid and reviewed all their quantities stuff, and their total came out to about 1.2 million. So they're below what we felt was a fair and equitable price to award to them an extra for this delay of 2 years plus all the additional work. The board approved the original bid back in end of August of 2019. So you guys saw all the numbers way back when on the original. We did not give them a notice to proceed because that's when we found out the environmental that everybody thought was done was not 100% done and had to start over. So anyway, where we're at now is we have an additional contract amount of 1.2 million that, yes?
Sorry to interrupt. Which, was it Cozen and Fox, or which environmental, I lost track, which environmental company? We didn't have environmental approval, and that's why you didn't go forward? I thought we had environmental approval way back then. Then
We
they
did
changed
not.
the scope, and then that changed.
No, way back when we did the bid, we had an environmental report done by the previous, before I got on board, there was an environmental report done.
That was under them.
Who was
Yeah.
that?
It was Covad and Fox, you're
Yeah,
correct.
could we use any of that? Were we able to use any of their material?
We tried actually, and we're proceeding along just fine until someone in Colorado for FEMA was reviewing it and concluded that it did not meet current environmental laws that had changed and referred it to state of California, who then looked at it and said, nope, this is too old, won't work, blah, blah, blah. And that's essentially what has caused this 2-year delay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that you're right on. That was the root of the problem.
And the part we did use from it is they did an alternative analysis on 3 different ways to fix the problem. And then this was this project that we're doing now is the project that they recommended. So we didn't have to repeat that part of it. But they didn't do any of the detailed environmental studies and the wetland studies, the habitat. They didn't do, all that has changed. That had to be updated and just redone. So technically that's when we said, we can award this, but we are going to now bring on a firm. I brought on Ultra Systems to work on it. And they went through their process. And then we changed it on them halfway through due to FEMA. And now we're at where we're at. But
Are we using that Ultra Systems now, who we're using?
on this one, yes. And we're using Rincon on the other one.
Other one on Buena Vista.
That's Rincon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we have that. So we were in the impression that we could go forward with it. Well, when we brought it up to the board to go out to bid, this came up and we did not award the project. I did not give the project, it was awarded. I did not give them a notice to proceed and told them this is held up by environmental and it's gonna take a while. Are you good with that? And he goes, yeah, just when you're ready to go, give me a call and tell me what you changed and we'll negotiate with the changes on that. You gotta remember, Marietta was awarded on that same night 2 years ago, all the other projects. And they did a great job on it. I mean, we didn't have any issues with extras on them and everything was done properly and stuff like that. So they're a good company and they were willing to hang around it. They didn't bid on Buena Vista knowing that this was going to come up. So they didn't want to have a conflict between doing two bridges at one time. So they kind of like hit it. Now, if you decide you do not want to award this to them, we would have to go back out to bid and award another project. And that will take you another 4 or 5 months to go through the process. You're in the middle of the rainy season. You would have to wait until spring to start construction. That is an option on the table. Because we're just recommending you do this because to us, it seemed like a fair way to go. And we talked to FEMA about this, said this procedure, said, hey, we hired this firm. We have some changes, we negotiate changes and they follow within acceptable guidelines. Are you good with that? And they said, yes. So we got their permission before we even started this also.
Does it take us 4 or 5 months when we put something out to bid to get a bid and, you know, to get going again?
Well, you're gonna, I mean, that's typical. Typically you give them at least a month. It's something this size, we gave them 6 weeks before for the contractors to bid on it. You review the bids, and by the time I bring it to the board, it's at least 3 months down the line. And by the time you go through a new contractor, get all the paperwork and all that stuff, it's another month before they get started. Well, that puts you in the middle, you know, of January in there. That's the worst time to start a project like this. Absolutely worst. That's when January and February, we get 80% of our rain for the
Do you
year.
think we should, since this thing has taken so long to develop and get approval, do you think we should be voting on, or I think you're wanting to have us a vote on whether or not Myriad Development is going to be the contractor, and we haven't even got the permits yet. How do we know this isn't going to drag on for another 3 or 4 months?
Well, if you approve this, Jim and I will not give them a notice to proceed until we have the permit.
That's what I'm saying. So why don't we get the permit?
Okay, but if we get the permit next week, you approve this, I tell the contractor you're good to go. He starts coordinating all his staff to start mid-September. If I don't give him the go-ahead until the 3rd week in September, it's going to put it off a month, and that gets us more into the rainy season. So I think you need to give Jim the option to have the authority that if it all falls in like they say, he can say, go ahead, get them started.
We can certainly approve this. We can certainly approve this pending the permit. If the permit doesn't come through, the approval doesn't take effect. If the permit
Absolutely.
comes through, the approval does take effect. I'm actually all for moving ahead on this. We've waited 2 years, and there are people tremendously disadvantaged and disturbed by all of that traffic that comes in front of their home. I think we need to do something about this. I think the bid is a fair one, and I think we need to move on it.
I've been saying that same exact thing for years. We haven't done a thing for years. So,
Well, let's do it then.
but now if we, now it could go to January or February if we don't get the I don't have a lot of confidence that we're going to get some kind of a permit. Dave's been saying that for months and months and years. But I mean, I'll go with his recommendation, but I'm just pointing out, he's been saying we're going to get this approval for months. You know that as well as I do.
Yeah.
Let's wait and see whether we get it. I'm going to move that we accept your proposal to go forward with the proviso that you have to get the permit first. Without the permit, then you can't proceed further. That's a motion.
It doesn't, does it need a board approval, or is it, if he gets a permit next week, then it's fine, he can just go?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Ray, thank you, Ray. Okay, let's see. Then let's proceed with a call for vote. Johnson,
Johnson, aye.
Alessandria,
Alessandria, aye.
Adams,
Adams, aye.
Roberts, aye. Ayes have it, so moved to approve the contract increase based on the information with Alessandria. Okay, very good, gentlemen. Thank you very much. All righty. Okay, thank you very much on all that detail, Dave. That really made a difference for the group here. Really appreciate it. Okay,
You're
then let's go ahead and move on, Dave, to Buena Vista.
Okay, Buena Vista. If you recall, the last meeting, we talked about how the Riverside Conservation Agency has given us some grief on the permit processing and kind of held it up. We met with them at the very beginning of this with my staff and environmental staff and discussed which way to go in all this turmoil of the pandemic and everything else. And they all agreed to go a certain direction. When we turned everything into her about a month and a half ago, she said, no, this is not the way to go because Jim doesn't have authority over Duluth to authorize this and permit, and created a whole big turmoil. So it's taken us last month to get them all on board on which way to go. They've all agreed to it. So now Jim has paperwork to sign. We just got it yesterday. And there's some checks that have to be written to them to review it. And then so we've gone through this whole new procedure. Because of this delay and everything else, it's probably caused this project to be delayed at least 3 months, out there. So with the 3-month delay, that's going to put us right in the middle of the rainy season. Luckily, we put in the contract that we could not award until 180 days out from when they turn the bids in. So I'm not asking you to award the project at all. I'm giving you kind of a status update because it's going to at least be probably springtime before they get all their stuff in a row. If it's earlier, great, but construction on that one won't start till spring. Because there's actually quite a bit of water that goes down that course all year round. So it's got more water in it than the other ones do. So I'm just giving you an update that we're moving again.
Dave, excuse me, you're talking Buena Vista, right?
Buena Vista.
I haven't seen any water out there in 8-9 months. I go out there periodically. I mean, what did we have? We had some water go down there recently that you know about?
That's what the environmental people are telling me. I haven't been out there, but they have. I have been out there for like a year. So,
Yeah, I figured that.
yeah. So anyway, that's the status of that. So they're moving again. I don't have any big update. I don't even have a long-term schedule for you yet. Once they turn all this in, we'll start getting a rough idea of when this will go through. But it's not going to happen this year. So with that, if there are any questions, we'd be glad to answer.
Okay.
It's not going to happen this year because I can barely hear. I apologize. Is it because of the environmental?
It's because of the environmental, and
Okay.
it's because of all the changes at the county level slowed us way down for a couple months, and that's just delaying us into the wrong time frame.
Just at the county level?
Yeah,
Like what? Different new employees or what?
no, same employees. It's just that they said, okay, we're gonna do all your reports and then bring it to they call the TCA, Transportation Conservation Agency, and then they'll be the ones that will expedite it. And then she said, you can't do it this way. The same person that told us that you could do it this way and recommended that way. And then she changed her tune. So I can't tell her to change her mind. And so we had to kind of like, okay, this is the way you want us to do it. We'll now, the reports are all done. It's just that we sat around for a month to a month and a half, maybe 2, waiting for them to all have these meetings and said, okay, this is the way to go. And that's what caused the critical delay. Because, we're in August and, you start getting anything past, not getting a total approval at the latest September, you're in big trouble.
One thing I have a hard time of understanding is I get what you're saying, but Buena Vista's been out for 4 years. And so we've known about this for a long time. We've submitted to FEMA, it got denied. We tabled it for a while. for a couple years for some unknown reason. Then we started to get going again on it. And now you're telling me the kind of money we pay your firm, you don't have a freaking clue on how to deal with the county. And now we're going to put this off for another year. Why don't you go out there and knock on some doors and talk to the residents? You think they're happy? They're teed off, and it's unbelievable. You know, you just go, oh, well, it's going to be next year. Well, that's a complete opposite of what you said a year and a half ago, that you said it was going to be done this spring. And then now these residents that have been inconvenienced, now you just go, oh, well, it's going to be another year, because you don't have to drive it. And none of these other board members actually go out and find out what's going on and talk to the residents. And I guarantee you can't find any happy residents out near Sandia Creek or Buena Vista. So, you know, I mean, I guess maybe Jim should send a letter out, or somebody should send something out to let the residents that don't come onto the Zoom meetings or don't really know what's going on. Maybe we should inform them somehow so they have some idea of why it's taking so long, because that's one of the reasons I'm stepping down from this board. I think I can be more effective off the board, if you want to know the truth. But anyway, I hope we can get it done soon, Dave.
Me too.
Okay, thank you.
That is a good suggestion, to let the residents know. I mean, it probably, most of them probably have had to deal with the county. I have, and it's almost impossible to get something done in any kind of timely manner. But it would be a good idea to send the people in that area a letter explaining exactly what the problem is here, that the county is delaying this. You know, they need to know that if ever we're going to change anything at the county, then people need to have a general feeling that it's a very difficult process to get anything approved in Riverside County. So much simpler in San Diego. I know you know that, and it's a good idea to get that message out there.
Thank you, Robert.
I'll work with Jim on that.
Okay, good plan, Jim. Okay, meeting with Dave on this subject matter. Okay, thank you, Dave, again, for all the detailed information on that. Okay, let's move on to item G, which is traffic, and Mr. Steve. Uh-oh.
Steve, you're on mute.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sure.
We got a short presentation for you tonight. Lisa, go ahead and cue it up. All right. Next slide. There we go. Okay, so we talked about this last month, but the county put up the 45-mile-an-hour zone on Rancho California Road that we requested, and they finished the signs a couple weeks ago. So that project is now done. Next slide. All right. Our changeable message board's been out on our Sycamore Mesa, advising people of the detour for the work that we're doing out there. Next streets are listed there that we'll be putting it back in for some speed enforcement. Next slide. We're checking intersections for visibility on a regular basis. This is an example of what we continually find around the community, things like this. And that's our traffic report. I'll answer any questions you might have. Okay, we'll go on to maintenance. We backfilled about 5 or 6 major shoulders. We got the contractor to finish the repair on the trench that had been left alone for about 6 months. So we finally got it completed by the contractor and it looks nice now. This is what we woke up to one day, and our guys came out and found Carrancho Road being blocked. And next picture shows what it looks like after our guys took care of it. So they did a nice job reopening the road for us. we talk a lot about, drain repairs and sinkholes and things like that. I just want to kind of show you, this is an example of what one looks like. This is a little hole repair it's actually buried off in the bushes in the shoulder. So it doesn't really show up much from the street. But now you see in the next slide, this is what it actually looks like, for that drain that's running under there. You can see a portion on the right hand there's rusting out. So this one's going to need some attention that we'll be addressing in the future here. So we also told you last month that we were going to be looking at doing a couple of drain repairs with in-house staff. And so I got a series of pictures here to kind of walk you through, just to kind of show you. But we rented some backhoe equipment. We trenched out the old pipe. Here's a picture of Pedro, then putting in the sand base and compacting it. Then we laid in the head wall that we had. We used a piece of equipment that we already had in stock, which was nice. We then compact the dirt around it. This is what the finished inlet looks like on the inlet side of the drain. On the downstream side, we took the backhoe and wiped out all the brush that was over in that area, so it flowed good. Then we covered up the area, the pipe and the back sand fill, and put fabric down before we put down the road base. And this is the road base now in and ready to go, and we'll be paving it tomorrow. So if y'all don't have anything to do and you want to watch our guys do the paving, I can sell that. Repairs are going smoothly. We're going to finish up tomorrow. We'll give you next month a final cost and the savings that it came out to. And so this item is to be continued.
Okay.
And with that, I'll answer any questions that you have.
No questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Steve. Once again, great presentation. Love the photos. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. H, committee reports. I'll start off obviously with engineering. The engineering committee met on August the 10th. Mr. Johnson was on vacation. Hope you had a good trip. And Mary Ann Byers participated in our discussion that evening. Minutes of July the 13th were approved. And obviously, much of what you heard today from Dave Hunt and also from Steve is what was presented to all the board members this evening. And the traffic presentation again by Steve. Let's see. And that is the report from the engineering committee. Next on the agenda, finance.
Thank you very much. Our finance committee met yesterday and we reviewed the claims for June. I think you saw them earlier in the consent calendar. There was some items that we had talked about that related to some large expenses for the environmental reports. So that was one of the things that we did talk about. We maybe Teresa can give you an update on any FEMA income that we've received. I think there's been some delay, but I think she believes that it's going to proceed more smoothly in the near future. So you have any comments?
I was wondering how much money have we received from FEMA to date?
A total of $850,000 so far.
That you are planning, you said last meeting you were planning on another, the rest of it's coming in, or is that later?
Well, another 500,000 to 600,000, but then we still have Sandia Creek and Via Vaquero money. Once that's completed, that we'll have to, finish up that process with them. So for in this next few months, hopefully another 500,000, but then another big payment will be made once those projects start completed.
We haven't received any money for Sandia Creek, just the small projects.
Well, that's what we've asked for, a large project reimbursement, and that's included in the 500,000 that I'm asking for, and that's in process to be sent right now. They were closing their books for the fiscal year. They were doing a new computer system. And so she's apologized that has caused delays, but there are no problems. So that's good news. But again, as everything else, it's hurry up and wait. So.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Emmons, Legislative Committee Report, SB 415.
Okay, I'll just make this the first item of my manager's report, which is next.
Okay.
The only change since the last meeting, I think you remember that we've gotten Supervisor Jeffries to agree that as long as this doesn't cost the county any money, that he would be willing to support this transfer of gas tax from the state to the county and then to us. We've been working on the mechanism whereby that could take place. This has really never been done in Riverside County, but Ward and I have been doing some research, and we found an attorney in his firm who used to be the assistant county counsel representing the Orange County Transportation Committee. So we talked to him, and he's very familiar with this process because Orange County has had experience with it. So Ward's going to be working with him because what our goal is to provide a package to Supervisor Jeffries of a methodology by which this can work, with exactly how to make it work. Problem is, the county, well, they've never done it in Riverside County. So anyway, this was a good find for us, and we're going to be working on that. Hopefully we'll have more to report next month. Just in terms now moving into my report, we completed the annual assessments, both the road assessment and the sheriff tax, and that's now with the county assessor or tax collector's office. So that's been completed. Our books have been closed for the prior fiscal year, and so begins the next year's audit. That has begun. We've completed this transition to the remote data storage. All of our financial records and the accounting system itself has been loaded. The street name is To the Cloud, but it's remote data storage. Our GIS, GPS, again, cloud. We're beginning the process whereby the pipes, all of our 800 pipes will be part of our GPS system now, and the crew can, in their annual inspection of the pipes, they will actually ping, or whatever the term is, the location, which goes satellite, and that'll create the database for each of those drains from here on. And we've also integrated the permitting system, which means in a few months, people need driveway permits or other kinds of permit activity. They can do all of that online. So that's what we have been up to this month. Any questions?
Oh, okay,
Robert,
thank you. Thank you.
He's speaking, but.
Yeah, on an unrelated matter, did you find out any information about the CC&R truck that exploded?
Oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry. I meant to mention that. I talked to Alex Brekovich today and yesterday, and he did indicate that not a lot of information at this point because it's under investigation by the insurance company, et cetera. But they do suspect that it was caused by something along the lines of what he discussed the last time he was at our meeting, probably a battery to some sort of computer or telephone device. Fortunately, this truck had It was not full. It had just recently been empty. And they're doing something similar to the COVID deal where they're tracing back the locations where the truck had picked up the material. They know that the fire investigators they probably by now have located what caused the fire, and they will be trying to find that customer that caused that. So that customer is probably not having a good day right now. But in terms of the explosion itself, that they're still trying to determine. It was a natural gas fueled vehicle. But we can report that the driver is fine. The 12 firefighters were taken to the hospital because of their ears. The explosion was so loud. And all of them were released within a few hours, and all are well. So there's not a lot known. Our vehicles are not natural gas. They use diesel, more of a traditional kind of vehicle in the Duluth district. But he will provide more information and perhaps be at the next meeting once they actually know what occurred. So, but it could happen anywhere, and this is an ongoing problem. He sent me some news articles that I looked at this afternoon. This is a problem everywhere with these batteries, and it's just getting bigger and bigger, and it also impacts their facility up in Paris because they've had 2 or 3 fires just this year, and it's all tied to the same dumping of these products in the trash containers. So anyway, thank you. I forgot to write that on my notes here. So that's the latest as of midday today.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jim. Okay, moving on. J, legal counsel matters. Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Director Roberts. I just have a short report tonight on what we're calling the State Farm litigation. Last month, I reported that we were having trouble locating the truck driver to serve him with papers, Mr. Canas. We were able to finally track him down, and they served him with what was called a memorandum of costs and request for default. And now they will proceed, we will proceed to obtain the default judgment that's against him. With regard to the other defendant, his trucking company that he worked for, Concept Freight, we've had to grant them several extensions of time for their counsel to respond to our written discovery. We expect their responses to occur in the next few days. So far, they haven't propounded any discovery on us, although we expect that maybe within the next month or so they will. And so after all this discovery is completed, and depending on, of course, what we learn through it, we're considering maybe the next step would be some type of a mediation or something short of going to court, hopefully, since the damages are within the range of about $100,000 to $150,000. So the first case management conference is set for not until December 9th. So we have several months of working through this discovery process to go.
I have a question, Ward.
Yes.
I heard it. I don't know where I heard it, but maybe some HOA person or something. Did we recently pay out some money for some lady that got hurt on a bicycle riding in the street or something like that out in our district?
No, she did submit a claim. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but we voted on that. I think it was about 2 meetings ago, we voted on that. We voted it down.
Right.
But she submitted a claim. It was quite a large claim, but we did turn her down.
Okay, so no insurance company paid anything?
No.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
That's
Any
my
other-
report, Director
Okay.
Robert.
Thank you very much. All righty. Well, the board meeting is concluded and we are adjourned, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you, Teresa.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks, Eddie.